Now shifting our focus to some other details also now coming in. Now we're understanding there is a demand seeking an SIT probe in the Kashmiri Pandits Genocide. We the Citizen, an NGO, have submitted a representation to the Home Ministry after Supreme Court's direction. The representation is seeking an SIT probe and prosecution of all the culprits involved in the 1990 Kashmiri Pandits Genocide and Exodus. Representation also seeking to declare all sale of property during 1990 January as null and void. So demand seeking an SIT probe in the Kashmiri Pandits Genocide. My colleague Ananya Bhatnagar is getting us all these details. Ananya, talk to us in detail about this representation that has been submitted by this NGO.
Well, yes, Ridhima, the representation actually comes after the Supreme Court's order into the various pleas that were demanding a SIT probe into the Kashmiri genocide that happened into 1990 and which led to actually the exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits. Remember that the Supreme Court had asked the petitioners to first approach the government with a representation, and this is exactly what has been done today. We the Citizens, one of the petitioners before the Supreme Court, also has now approached the Ministry of Home Affairs. They've written a 5-page representation to, the Ministry of Home Affairs. The letter has been addressed to the Secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs, the MHA. And clearly, the demands that are there are that there should be, census of those who were the victims in this particular genocide that had happened in the 1990s. Apart from that, it has also sought SIT probe and prosecution of all those culprits who were involved in the killings of innocent Kashmiri Pandits in the year of 1990. Apart from that, it also say that all of the sales of property that happened, whether the properties were religious in nature, personal in nature, institutional, educational, or of whatever nature they were, they should be declared as null and void, which happened, the sale of which happened in January 1990, when the Kashmiri Pandits actually had to run away from the Kashmir Valley after a massive violence had taken place there. And in fact, almost exodus had happened, killing a lot of Kashmiri Pandits. And now a big demand coming in. In fact, a representation also seeks to conduct a census of those who were a victim of this genocide. So people like Bitta Karate, people like, Yasin Malik are sought to be prosecuted, who have been blamed for this particular violence in this, and real prosecution is needed for such people is what the representation says, and to put them behind the bars and to give them the maximum punishment possible. Ridhima.
Okay, Ananya, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. We'll keep tracking all these developments.